Welcome to the TMHP YouTube channel. In this video, TMHP will explain what a Chow is. We will also touch on some scenarios to provide context for what is considered a Chow. So, what is a Chow? A Chow, also known as a change of ownership, is defined in Title 42, Part 489, Section 18, Paragraph A of the Code of Federal Regulations, and generally means, in the case of a partnership, the removal, addition, or substitution of a partner, unless the partners expressly agree otherwise, as permitted by applicable state law. To make sense of this, let's go over a scenario that constitutes a Chow and another that does not. When provider corporations merge or consolidate, resulting in the creation of a new corporation, this is considered a Chow. For example, when provider A merges with provider B, they create a new corporation known as provider C. Another way to look at this is like when we mix yellow with blue to get a new color, green. When there is a transfer of corporate stock or a corporation is merged into the provider corporation, this is not a Chow. For example, when Corporation A is merged with Provider B now holds 100% of the ownership. There is no need to document change because Corporation A is not a provider. Texas Medicaid and Healthcare Partnerships, TMHP's definition of a Chow is defined as a change of ownership and not a change in ownership, which will be explained below. Often, the bill of sale is needed in determining if there has been an actual Chow. If Medicare observed a change as a Chow, TMHP will follow their lead. These two similar yet different scenarios are often confused by Texas Medicaid providers. A change of ownership is defined as a change in the tax ID, National Provider Identifier, or NPI, or more than 50% of the ownership of the business. In this scenario, owner B is transferring 60% of its ownership to owner A and owner C. This constitutes as a change of ownership because more than 50% of the ownership is changing. An example of a change in ownership would be when an entity is enrolled with owners A, B, and C, with each owning 33.3%. Owner B has now sold his shares to owner A and owner C. This constitutes as a change in ownership because less than 50% of the ownership is changing. Note that as it pertains to Texas Medicaid enrollment, Chows must be submitted within 30 days of the change of ownership. Refer to Texas Administrative Code, or TAC, Rule 352.21, also known as Title I, Part 15, Chapter 352, Section 21, for more information regarding duty to report changes. A Chow is submitted using an existing or new enrollment application, depending on the buyer or new owner. If the buyer or new owner is already enrolled with an NPI or Atypical Provider Identifier, API, in Pems, the buyer or new owner must submit an existing enrollment application. View your approved application and click Edit Enrollment Record. Then, select Create Request for existing enrollment to open the enrollment record and make changes. There are two scenarios that require the buyer or new owner to submit a new enrollment application. If the buyer or new owner doesn't have an existing active enrollment with an NPI or API in Pems, and if the buyer or new owner is taking over an NPI or API that already exists in Pems. On the Pems dashboard, click Start New Enrollment. Select to enroll with an NPI or as an atypical provider with an API. In this example, we'll select Enroll as a provider with an existing national provider identifier. Then, type the NPI and click Validate. If the buyer or new owner is taking over an existing Pems NPI or API, select Yes to the Change of Ownership question. A buyer or new owner that does not have an existing Pems NPI or API will select No. Click the checkbox after you read and agree to the Texas Privacy Statement and laws. Then click Begin Enrollment/Registration. Whether the buyer or new owner edits an existing enrollment or starts a new enrollment, they will complete the Ownership Controlling Interest page in Pems. In the Ownership section, select Yes for the question, are you seeking enrollment or updating your enrollment due to change of ownership? Additional questions related to a Chow will appear. Select Yes if CMS considered this a change of ownership and complete all required fields marked with a red asterisk. As of June 30th, 2023, Pems has been updated to clarify the seller information required for a Chow. Select the appropriate answer for the question. Do you assume liability for this location? If this is considered a change of ownership, indicate whether the seller's Medicare numbers were retained or retired as part of the purchase and enter the appropriate Medicare numbers. Complete all other required information for the enrollment application and attach any supporting documentation, such as the bill of sale or CMS tie-in notice. Then submit it for review. Visit the Pems instructional site on tmhp.com or click View Instructions in Pems for information on completing the fields on the page.